This new moon on June 25th, 2025 is a potent new moon for new beginnings, new growth, and change. And that's especially true if you have a sun sign or a rising sign in your birth chart that is either a water sign or an earth sign. And I'll explain why here in a second. So this new moon in Cancer is at 4 degrees, and as is the usual with all new moons, the sun and the moon are on top of one another, meaning they're conjunct. But this new moon is amplified because it has a somewhat rare conjunction with Jupiter that's at 3 degrees in Cancer. And Jupiter amplifies anything it touches. It is considered to be the great benefic planet. It is a planet that brings blessings, and it is associated with the archetype of Santa Claus. So that kind of gives you an idea of the kind of energy of Jupiter. So the sun and the moon and Jupiter, so you have your identity, your persona, which is your sun. You have your emotions and your subconscious, which is the moon. And they are in alignment, they are in agreement in the sign of Cancer, which rules over your home, rules over your emotions. And the other very lucky thing about this conjunction with Jupiter is that Jupiter rules over the sign of Cancer. So it means that it is at home in Cancer. So anything to do with your home life, your family, your like emotional state, anything of that nature. So think of like comfy cozy. It's comfy cozy. Cancer is very comfy cozy. It likes its home, it likes its familiar surroundings, and it considers family and those it considers family, so not just blood relatives, but also those who are, heart family, which family that we choose, as being incredibly important. So all of these themes are going to be amplified, and we also have a square, however. So there isn't a however. I know all of that sounded great, and then we have the but. But it is squared Saturn and Neptune that are both conjunct still in Aries. Saturn's at 1 degree and Neptune is at 2 degrees. Now, this is not a make or break kind of thing. So there's going to be blessings. This is still a great time to start anything around like new beginnings, especially new beginnings that have to do around re-strategizing your home, your work-life balance, things of that nature. So if you've been emotionally uncomfortable in some particular way, this is going to give you some clarity as to how to remedy that. But Saturn, it will create delays. So Saturn is essentially the opposite of Jupiter. Where Jupiter expands, Saturn contracts. Saturn teaches the tough lessons through limitation and time-bound consciousness. But we can relate to Saturn in a way where it isn't as much of a wah, wah, wah kind of feeling. And we can relate to time as though we are able to leverage it in some way and be open to some of the more tough lessons. So this is going to be a good time to make changes in both your love life, make changes in your living situation, your home, your household, even things like beautifying your home, interior decorating, renegotiating certain terms in your love life. So if there's been some upheavals in your relationships, it doesn't necessarily have to be intimate relationships, it could be close friends as well. This would be a really good time to bring that to the surface and to make peace with any of those kind of conflicts that might have been coming up. But the results are not going to show up right away. And that is due to that Saturn-Neptune square. So there's going to be some tension at first that happens before things are resolved. But don't lose heart. It doesn't mean that your plans are completely squashed. It doesn't mean that like you've lost in any sort of way. It just means that you are having some unexpected delays and you might have to wait longer than you had anticipated. So in addition to the square with Neptune, the Sun, Moon, and Jupiter are in a harmonious sextile with Mars at 4 degrees in Virgo. And this only helps to again, amplify, to fine-tune, redefine, because that's really what Virgo does. Virgo is about strategy. She's about refinement. She is about reorganizing, restructuring, realigning. So all of those changes that I was talking about with home, life, work, home, life, work balance, love life, and re-strategizing and restructuring, Virgo is going to help with all of that re-strategizing. And because it's in that harmonious sextile, not just with any old Virgo, planet in Virgo, but it's Mars in Virgo, it's going to give the energy to do so. So there is going to be a heightened physical rejuvenation. So we'll have the energy to be able to make these changes as well. So then we also have Uranus at 29 degrees in Taurus, and it is in a harmonious alignment with Mercury and Saturn. Again, Saturn is conjunct with Aries, and Mercury is in Cancer. So Uranus is at the very tail end of its time in Taurus. Here in the very first part of July, it's going to shift into Gemini, where it will stay there for the next 7 years. Uranus stays in each sign for 7 years. So when it shifts, it's a big deal. It means that it's going to shift things for the long haul. So it is just wrapping up its time in Taurus. And because we have this connection between Uranus and Taurus with that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, Uranus is about big, unexpected changes. And so when it has gone through the sign of Taurus, it has been changing, renovating everything that's associated with Taurus. So Taurus is associated with wealth, it's associated with our livelihood, it's associated again also with our home too, more about like our household. Cancer is more associated with the relationships within our home and our close relationships, where Taurus is about like the household itself. And so we have for the last 7 years, if you kind of review back in your mind, just take a moment to think about any of the changes that have happened over the last 7 years in your career, in your health, your own work-life balance as well, how you live, your family, things of that nature. Taurus is associated with Venus, and so the aspect of beauty and love also comes up in this. So if you've had some upheavals or some major renegotiations in your close relationships, and especially your love life, this Uranus and Taurus may have been playing a part in all of that. So it's wrapping all of that up. And because Cancer has some similar themes to Taurus in a lot of ways, because of its focus on our home and on our, the way that we live, to me, this is also just kind of a repeating of like that we are going to be making some big changes, especially over the next couple of weeks, that may not have a result right away as far as how we live and what we do for a living and how we balance our work and our life, and as well as changes in our love life. We may not see the results of those changes right away, but the seeds are going to be planted now, and those changes will be for the long haul. And this is especially true because Uranus is in this harmonious alignment with Saturn and Neptune conjunction with Aries. And because Saturn is about karma, it's about those lessons and the patterns that exist in our life that sometimes seem like more very annoying or even toxic loops. That is the realm of Saturn. So we might have things that kind of come up, and we might see them, like, you know what, I'm really done with this for the final time. This would be also an alignment where a lot of us will be very tempted to just kind of like clean the slate. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it all at one time. So let's be careful not to be impetuous and to like knee-jerk reaction, like, okay, fine, I'm like I'm selling all my things and I'm gonna backpack across the country, blah, so make sure that we are making decisions from a more pragmatic, rational point of view. And if you want to backpack across the country, great. But plan ahead, make some plans and make sure that you're going to be able to do it in a way that's sustainable and safe. We also have this harmonious alignment with Mercury. And so this might bring sudden insights. It might bring unexpected communications that might be communications around those delays that I was talking about. But again, don't lose heart. Like any delays that come up, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a firm no. It's just maybe a bump in the road. And I've even experienced myself with this kind of energy. I've personally experienced it before where at first the answer is no, and then later on the answer turns to a yes. Or I renegotiate that no and I start asking questions, pushing back a bit, and then until eventually it becomes a yes. So that's the kind of energy that we are experiencing here. That it's really potent, really long-term changes, but we may have to have a bit of patience and we may have to push a little bit, not necessarily like be forcible or aggressive, but we may have to ask for a plan B. We may have to ask for exceptions. We may have to ask for contingencies. So don't take a no at face value if it's something that's really important to you. See if there is some other kind of side way that we can get in, that we can achieve what it is that we want. All right, so let's take a look and see what the tarot has to say about all of this. How might we leverage this new moon on June 25th, 2025 for our best and highest good? What do we need to know about it? Okay. All right, so that unconventional approach that I was talking about, that comes a bit later. That this is really about like learning some of those like big lessons, and I'm going to get into the unconventional piece here in a second. So the Hierophant comes up, and there is somebody and or an institution that is very benevolent, could be very helpful. Make sure that you're asking for the assistance that you're needing, and the as well as like you're going to first take a traditional approach, because the Hierophant is associated with traditional approaches, and at first it's going to be a little bit of a wah. Like we have a loss of money or resources. There is like a perceived feeling of loss, like the World card reversed is usually about like a lack of reward for something that we really feel that we've earned or that we're qualified for. But the Four of Cups comes up, and it's like, it's not necessarily a no, it's just a not now. All right, so there is a reanalysis of the situation that is going on. Ultimately, what ends up happening, though, is that we end up in a harmonious type of engagement with whoever this situation is for us. So this could be family changes. For example, we might be taking a traditional approach as far as our work-life balance, but it ain't working. Perhaps you have taken on a new job thinking that it was going to really help with that, and it didn't pan out the way that you had expected at first, but never fear. There's some readjustments that happen, and then there is like there's like a copacetic. So there are other people that can help with this. But it goes back to asking for the exceptions, asking for what it is that you need, asking for that plan B. The other thing too that's coming to my mind as well, that in regards to love life. So if this is showing up more for you, not just as much as career, but more in your love life, this could also be like finding a therapist, finding a counselor, or some sort of teacher, like a relationship coach or something of that nature, that you're like, oh, you know, this is going to really work out. And at first, it feels like it's really flat, like, oh, this is not the results that I was going for. First of all, if that's the case, like a lot of times with that kind of process, it gets messy before it gets better. Just want to put that out there. But eventually, like, you know, there's harmony. So the cards are backing up a lot of like the energy that is coming up in the astrology, is just like, don't lose faith. This is playing the long game. This is not about quick rewards, but you will get to where you are going if you just keep focused on what it is that you want and you keep heart. All right, folks, I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.